We are now all set to begin the discussion. I request our chairperson, Mr. Miguel Braganza, to take over and conduct the session.
Thank you, Dr. Robina Fernandez. You have just a warm welcome to all the persons participating in this webinar. You have just heard the introduction of the panelists. They bring with them a vast experience which they will share with you, especially for the Bolmex and Ms. Gauri, to give you a lot of their experience in the field in motivating people to do exactly what we are going to discuss: the revival of agriculture in Goa, the need, the opportunities, and roadblocks. So, without much ado, I would request Ms. Gauri Prabhudesai to kindly make a presentation. It will be followed by Reverend Dr. Bolmex and then by Lisa Pinheiro. Over to you, Gauri. We will shortly have Gauri speak to you about her experiences in agriculture.
He said that it's certain. Yeah, he said.
Okay.
Hello, namaskar. Good morning, students. Good morning. Good morning, my farmer friends, and good morning to all the participants of this webinar. Now, we will speak on a revival of agriculture sector from the departmental point of view, and I will be having my own view about the revival of this sector. Friends, today in our country, everybody is speaking about Atmanirbhar or being self-reliant. Now, this particular pandemic which we have faced, it has shown us a real picture of how much self-reliant we are, or are we self-reliant? Okay. Now, due to this pandemic, lockdown situation was arisen in the state. The boundaries were blocked, and the supply from the outside was stopped. And we have all witnessed the situation in our state soon after that. There was chaos in the market, there were chaos in the superstores, there were chaos everywhere, there were crowding everywhere. So the pandemic has shown us a real picture as to how much dependent we are on the other state for basic and very basic essential commodities. And this phase we all have witnessed during the last 6 months. Now, there is another phase which you all might not have seen or witnessed. Maybe this is being witnessed by people like me who are working on the ground level as an extension worker. Throughout the lockdown, we were on the field, and we had seen another phase also. Now, in this phase, we had seen that lot of people, they have come back to agriculture sector. they have shown a lot of interest in reviving their fields or reviving their orchards. A number of farmers registered with us as new farmers. Then there are instances where I can quote that the department has sold nearly 4 to 5 times more vegetable seeds and millet seed, other seeds, okay, as compared to the previous year's sale. We were 4 to 5 times, it was more this year. Another thing which was seen during this period was that a number of communities, they come together, okay, and a lot of fallow lands which was idle, which was fallow for last 20-25 years, were brought under cultivation. Now these includes the barren paddy fields, the interspecies in the coconut orchards, and a number of even khazan lands were revived. I can tell you that as statistics says, 170 hectares of the fallow lands were brought under cultivation, and nearly 150 hectares of the paddy fields were revived in the last 4 to 5 months. The vegetable production increased 40 times, and we, sitting in the office, we could see so many new faces coming into the office, asking and inquiring about different departmental schemes. Actually, this is one positive side we have actually witnessed. So I can say that somewhere there is a silver lining to the darkness. Of course, it is sad to see that such a bad health crisis has to take place for the people of Goa to realize the importance of agriculture. Now, this pandemic has given us a very clear message that whatever you do, wherever you go, you have to come back to your roots. And somewhere your roots are lying in doing farming and doing agriculture. Now, COVID-19 is just a small monster what we have faced. We are having a bigger demons upcoming, which we may not be facing, or we may not see those things, and those that we call it as climate change, which is a bigger monster, what I feel. And today at this stage, we have to be prepared for all future challenges. Now, when we are thinking of going to the roots, we should have a very self-sustaining model. Now, can we have that model? Just if we look back, in our state, agriculture was the mainstay of economy, with majority of the population were either directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture, with agriculture contributing to nearly 17% of the total GDP of the state. Okay. Now, during that particular time, the agriculture was subsistent time. And when I say subsistent, that means that people used to do farming for their own family consumption. Okay, and we had a very good tradition. Whatever surplus thing we had, we used to distribute among friends and families and relatives. Okay, so that type of way of life we had in the earlier days. Okay, now what type of model we had? I would say that we had almost a self-reliant model with us. Now, every household was having their own stock of cereals, their own stock of millets. We had our own pulses like holsando and groundnuts. We had our millets, natsno and wari. We had our condiments. We used to store spices. We used to have a lot of value-added products, either of jackfruit, or we call them bodio, or some solas, and so many things we used to stock them. Now, this particular model was, according to me, it was very much secured in terms of food security and in terms of nutritional security also, which included even the tuber crops, the yams, etc. Now, there was another thing what was there earlier is that people used to consume what was being produced. Okay. And what was produced is that whatever was fit to that climate, whatever was compatible to that particular region, whatever grew best in that particular locality, farmer used to grow. So that type of system used to exist during that time. Now, can we have the same model to become Atmanirbhar? This is a theme of discussion. Friends, during that time, nearly 70% of the population were engaged in agriculture. Right now, we are having less than 15% of our population which are directly or indirectly involved in agricultural activities. Of course, now agriculture is contributing something around 7% to the total GDP of the state. So, what type of self-reliant model we should have at present? Should we replicate the same model? Then it is not possible because so many changes have taken place. For example, for instance, if you see the cost of the inputs, it has soared up tremendously. Okay, the labor charges. If you consider the cost of cultivation of particular crop has increased tremendously. So what is needed at this particular time is a self-reliant model, but which should be more remunerative and which should be more smart, so that even the young generation would adapt it very easily. Now, for that reason, the State Department of Agriculture is tremendously working towards collaborative efforts or making a community model of farming system. Like, see, over a period of time, the land has also got fragmented. Okay, we are not having that type of labor force which used to work in the field. So, it is a time that if we want to revive this particular sector, we need to come together. That is the first and foremost thing we have to do. We need to have cooperative farming, the community type of farming. And the government, state government is offering excellent programs and schemes and so many packages if you are doing farming activities on community basis. Now, when I speak about community farming, it is not restricted to infrastructure development. Okay. When I say community farming, it is a much holistic approach. It's like community farming, people should come together and there should be good leadership also in that particular community, so that it becomes a very much sustainable model. There should be community level crop insurance. The procurement of inputs and the distribution of the inputs should happen on the community basis. Also, the marketing, which is the main hindrance, that should happen on the community level. If we are able to make this a community level approach, then only somewhere we'll have a marketable surplus which we can take across the boundary. And only that time, I think, we will be able to have a remunerative system in our state. Now, if you see the state scenario, every zone is a different zone. I find every zone is a different type of zone. Like I am working in Sangem. Okay, I have earlier worked in Salsette. Now in Sangem, we are having a different type of topography, undulating lands. We are having high hills, we are having low hills, we are having the basin valleys. Okay, we are having 60% of the area is covered with the forest. We are having on the low hills, we are having cashew plantation. If you come downwards, we are having cashew groves. We are having coconut areca nut puragers or cropping systems. Down there, we are having paddy. we are having different problems, like we are having menace of wild animals. So every area is having different problems, every area is different, and every area is having different scope. Now, when I come to Sangay, and when I say 65% of the area is already occupied by forest, and rest of the area, cultivable area, there is already existing cropping system present. Now, when I come to places like Salsette or Bardez, we are not having that undulating type of topography. We are having a plain lands. Again, we are having excellent fertile lands we call as Khazan lands in Salsette, where a different type of farming system can be developed. Okay, those Khazan lands are having different problems which are to be attended differently. We are in Salsette, if you see, Salsette is in close proximity to the markets, and the market linkage is very good. Whereas in Sangay, you will not find that particular type of market linkage. So here, a large pockets of land in Sangay, they are fallow. Now, if you compare Sangay and Salsette, there should be two types of approaches one should have. Like in Sangay, one should try to have approach which is towards improvement of the existing cropping system. Like if we are having nearly in our state 26,000 hectares under coconut. Okay. Now out of that, around 2,000 hectares is under areca nut plantation. And if we see what is the area under black pepper, it comes to around somewhere around 700 hectares. Now it leaves nearly 1,200 to 1,300 hectares of area which is having scope for black pepper plantation. So we can have a hub for spices. We can also say that we are having hardly 200 hectares of area in the state which is under tree spices. Okay. Now, this also suggests us there are large spaces, interspaces in between the
Yeah, I think we are back.
Okay. So I was talking about. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, please continue.
Yes. So a large scope for in Sangay we are having a larger scope for development of spices, for development of millets and hilly vegetables. Whereas if we come to plain areas, there are disturbances over here. A lot. We are having a lot of area which is fallow. Now here the community approach will be successful. That type of approach will be successful. Like we can have, we had one type of model in Majorda, where people came together and for a part and parcel of the land. I think something around 12 to 15 hectares of land was cultivated. And is one area which is having a large scope for organic. Also, we are having a lot of areas people used to take double crops. Like after harvesting paddy, they used to go for, in places like Majorda, they used to go for pulses. We had groundnut areas, large areas under groundnut. We had areas under Alsando. And now I think there is a huge scope if we adopt technologies and we address to the problems of these areas. There is a large scope. After rice, we can take pulses. After pulses, we can take vegetables in these particular things. So such type of models, sustainable models, should be established in that particular, depending upon the situation over there. Now, when we talk about how we should go ahead, okay. First thing I would emphasize upon adoption of technology. As I have said that the agriculture, what was there in the past and what is there at present, there are so many changes that happen. The cost of cultivation of a particular commodity, it has increased to such an extent. For example, a kg of bhendi, the cost of cultivation, if you see in neighboring states, it would be just 10 rupees a kg, whereas the cost of cultivation of the same variety of bhendi would be something around 15 to 25 rupees, 20 rupees. Okay, so there is a huge difference. Now, so what could be the solution? We should not be now depending upon the labor force, because I think laborers have become in Goa like something like rare or endangered species, as we see in the case of coconut pluckers. They have become like an endangered species. But then, apart from this thing, we have to see that yes, labor is one thing which consumes or which increases the cost of production. And perhaps it is that particular parameter which makes this whole operation a less remunerative one. Technologies are available. Fortunately, those are available with us. Now, how to do smart farming? We are having something like smartphones in our hand. We are having so many smart apps. Okay. Now, if you do the soil testing and if you have your soil card in your hands, you know the nutrient status of your soil. Okay. Now, since the cost of the input has increased tremendously, we should only apply what is needed, the precision farming. How much water is needed to that particular plant at that particular stage, only that much we should apply. So this is one way we can cut down on the production cost. Something like we are having technologies like micro irrigation systems. We are having add-on gadgets on micro irrigation system. Like we need not be dependent upon our labor to operate our pumps. Okay, technology has so much advanced that sitting at home, even if you are gone to England, you can see that your pump at Rivana is operated. You can operate your pump and you can off your pump. You can have automized system. You can have. Second thing is that having mechanization. Okay, now mechanization is one phase which by adapting mechanization you can very well replace the labor force. You can replace the dependency upon labor force, and this has happened in Goa. Paddy is one crop in which this has happened. Now, if you see paddy, right from nursery, raising of the nursery, transplantation, weeding, harvesting of paddy, and even threshing operation have been already replaced, and they are taken over by the machines. Now, when such smart machines we are having, it is a need that we come together on a community level, and whatever large chunks of area which is fallow, it can be brought under cultivation. Mechanization offers a larger scope for getting a huge area under a field crop especially. We are having very smart gadgets, very smart equipment, right? We need not depend upon a labor for digging of pits, for basin, having basin around the coconut trees, for spraying on areca nut trees. Everything can be done with the help of machines. And the government is also having push-up schemes wherein you are having very good subsidy schemes for purchase of these machineries. Now, I will tell you a small change. You can save a lot of things. For example, a small technology we are having like mulching. Okay. Now, if you see the cost of production, maximum labor-oriented operation is weeding operation. In any crop you consider, weeding takes maximum labor. But if you replace that particular operation, if you just put on mulching, it may be natural mulch, it may be some so many types of mulchings are available. It does not only reduce the weed, it also regulates the temperature around the root zone. It also improves the microflora around your root zone, and subsequently the thing is that the plants become more productive. So this is a simple technology which a farmer can adopt, and it can bring out major changes. We are having so many farmers who have shown that they can now cultivate bhendi at the rate of 10 kg at rupees per kg. And it has been shown. We are having so many examples, and that's it. What I would like to emphasize, adoption of technology. Adoption of technology should be also done with value addition and marketing. Now, our people are still doing same type of agriculture. Like the moment they harvest their produce, they just want to get rid of it. They harvest the coconut, they want to get rid of it. They harvest their paddy, they want to get rid of it. It's like still now, nobody has done this value addition on a larger scale. We are having 56,000 hectares under cashew, but still the type of value addition required in the clusters has not seen happen, and there is a big scope for adopting these particular technologies. Now the market, if you go to the market is flooded with value added products. Okay. And all of those products, they come across the boundaries. We are having our neighboring states who are doing this value addition, and we are just happening to be the consumers. Now, adopting post-harvest technology is the need of the hour. Like in terms of coconut, you can do a lot of value-added product. For example, we are having a lot of jackfruits. We are having a lot of we are having vegetable commodities. We can take these particular commodities for adding value, and the amount of the quantity what we are having, the quantity of raw material, I think we can take these particular product not only across the state but across the nation as well. Second thing comes simple things like grading or packaging. Now, if we do simple grading and packaging, a farmer can do direct marketing, which is not happening right now. Simple, I'll give you an example. A black pepper fetches 300 rupees a kg. A farmer gets around 300 rupees a kg. I had just gone last week to a supermarket where I found that same pepper was sold at something at the rate of rupees 1,800 rupees per kg, and people are buying. Okay, there was no value addition. There was not even the grading has taken place. Only a nice packaging and labeling. So a simple thing can bring about a big changes. And I think we should try to make a win-win situation for the farmer as well as the consumer. I mean, if the farmer gets even 500 or 600 rupees for their black pepper, they can sell it at rupees 700 rupees to the customer. So the consumer who is paying 1,800 for the same commodity, they can get it at around 500 or 600 rupees. So this is type of win-win situation we should try to create. Last thing which has to be done is like we should attract and we should make this sector so much remunerative that youth should automatically get attracted towards this particular sector. Now, today's youth are very much smart. Okay, they are techno savvy. They are they are using all smart gadgets. Now, all these things what I have told, optimal utilization of the available resources, then smart farming, marketing, smart marketing, direct marketing, value addition, adoption of post-harvest technologies. If we do all these things, then our youths are having a larger scope in marketing. Because if we adopt all these things, our production level will go to such a height that we will have a lot of surplus commodities which we can take across the boundaries. We are having such dollar earning crops such as, or we are having very fine alsando, that is we are having our coconut oil which is sold in the European market as white gold. We are having our cashew, which is a very superior quality cashew we are having in Goa. And Goa, I feel that it is at a very advantageous stage because we are having very good road network, we are having port with us, we are having harbour. In fact, I would also say that we are still having good quality of air, good quality of water, and by default, most of the things what we are having is by default organic. The fertilizer or pesticide consumption in Goa is very, very minimum. Only the thing is that we have to think smartly and do smart agriculture. Okay. Now, I think that much time I was having to speak on this. Actually, 20 minutes is a very short time to discuss about revival of this particular sector. But yes, so many positive things have happened and they are happening. We are watching it happening. The revival has already taken place. What is needed is that making these particular changes taking these changes on a sustainable level. Okay, any main industry which we are having, so we can link this agriculture to this particular. We should have a collaborative efforts, meaning linkages. Linking agriculture to tourism. We are having very beautiful hinterlands. Like come to Sangyan, you are having beautiful Western Ghat areas, beautiful, waterfalls. These can be converted into ecotourism centers. So many things can happen. Of course, it has started happening. Some mindset changes and adoption of smart technology only has to take place. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gauri. I think we have got quite a few takeaways from what Gauri has spoken. One thing is that because very few people are growing vegetables, this year we were able to have a 500% increase
Okay, first of all, a word of appreciation to Carmel College for organizing this webinar. Pandemic. We are all with the pandemic, and pandemic has terrified us. At the same time, pandemic has been a green movement for our biodiversity. We can say, they say this word today, that pandemic has been a green time for the biodiversity. And same thing with us. So evaluating the pandemic, how it has gone for us, especially when we are thinking about our economies, because economy is very important for us as if we have to survive. And for our economy, we have different things that we have been doing. As Ms. Gauri has rightly pointed out, the Esther years when we were already Atmanirbhar. And now we are again talking about Atmanirbhar because somewhere we have stopped becoming Atmanirbhar. And if I can make a small statement about this, then I see that development that we have brought in has itself become a reason for us to be not Atmanirbhar. So from our Atmanirbhar, when we did not have today's development, at that time we were Atmanirbhar, self-sufficient. And after getting the development, today the development that we have, somewhere we have lost the track. Today, once again, we are talking about becoming Atmanirbhar thanks to the pandemic. Well, I'll make this short presentation. I will not talk on everything. I'll try to be short. Okay, I hope my screen is...
Yes, please go ahead further.
Yeah, I'm presenting the animation.
The visual is on the screen. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, the analysis of the pandemic effect on Goan economy and reviving agriculture in Goa has been the first of the series taken by Carmel College. The need, opportunities and the roadblocks. Now, issues that we have today as the government, Goa government sees the opportunity to revive agriculture during the pandemic. Can investment in agriculture stimulate and sustain the Goan economy? And youth for farming, possibilities and challenges, natural and healthy living, the kitchen garden way, and experiences in agriculture is the way ahead. Well, I'll just talk about some of the things and focus a little more on youth and farming possibilities and challenges. Well, this is the map that I have managed to get. The land use. Referring to 2027 also, the yellow thing that we see in Goa is cropland. And if this is the situation, then we have something to cheer about. That a lot of our Goan land is or can be under cropland. We also have barren lands, we have fallow lands, we have water bodies, and we have forests. So all this actually makes Goa a rich biodiversity for agriculture itself. And that gives us a lot of hope if we look at this map. But the reality depends on how we use this. God has given us this beautiful land from the hills to the water. You can call it H2O. Hills to water, we have different type of lands, as rightly pointed out by Ms. Gauri. And that's why the agriculture in the entire state cannot be same. It is different in different places. So accordingly, in the place where we are, whether we are in the mountainous region or whether we are in the plains where we have cousins and we have other morod and all those things, depending on that will be the cultivation that we take up. So as cropland, we have, of course, rice, paddy is one of the principal crop. Besides that, we have cashews, areca nut, and other crops that we can have. We have 2 seasons, Kharif and Rabi crop that we can get. So let's be thankful to God because He has given us this land and these opportunities. In short, I would like to just have a say about the points that we are taking up. As the government sees the opportunity to revive agriculture during the pandemic, well, let it not be controversial and let me also not be controversial. And all of us will agree that yes, our Goa government has seized the opportunity actually. And most of our zonal agricultural offices or agriculture department itself is active these days and has been reaching out to people, has been reaching out to different groups, to youth, to farmers in a different way. And there are so many new schemes that are available or even the old schemes that were already there. And somehow we, the people, have not taken advantage of these schemes. Agriculture department has rightly come out once again reviving these agricultural schemes. So actually we have a lot of schemes that are in the pipeline, which we can take advantage of. And as we take advantage of these schemes, although the schemes are available, it is like, I would like to put an example of a swimming pool. We have a good, nice swimming pool and using latest technology, suppose we have a state-of-art springboard or diving board from where the divers will dive in the swimming pool. But if after going on the springboard, we realize that there is no water where we can actually dive, then that is a disaster. And something like that I see when we talk about revival of agriculture. Now, during this pandemic, all these things have come up. Revival of the schemes, revival of agricultural lands, and a lot of talk is going on about Atmanirbhar, being Atmanirbhar. Yes, very good. But are we able to climb up to that springboard that has been given to us? I would share with you after this presentation the latest scheme that has come up for youth. When I talk about youth, I will show it to you. So in this, what I say is agriculture is not independent. Agriculture is also dependent on other factors in our topography, in the climate, in the development itself. So if I'm saying yes, I'm saying yes because there is revival. People have come forward. People have taken advantage of the vegetable seeds and all that has been distributed. Over here also in Chikali, we distributed the vegetable seeds and people have taken it up. Some of them have grown the vegetables and brought it back to me also saying, Father, this is the fruit that we have got. So it was something nice and something satisfying that yes, we are getting the fruit. So people are actually interested. So government is giving the schemes. Government has done well. Agriculture department is doing well. The schemes are going. I'm saying no because of the other factors. If agriculture needs the other factors, especially the climatic factors, to be right in order to revive this agriculture, then our government really has to look into what are the types of projects that we are passing. Especially during this pandemic, we have seen the rise of so many activists rising up and shouting against the project, especially the double tracking, the coal transportation, then the marinas and our beloved mole. Everybody is shouting today, even children are shouting today, save my mole. If in this pandemic, these are the things that are coming up and the government is silent about it or supporting it, then I say a big no. Government is not really serious about reviving agriculture. So it will be same like giving us the springboard, but by the time we reach the springboard, the water in the swimming pool where we are supposed to dive is empty, and that can cause greater disaster for us than not to jump in it. So if we are jumping into the revival of agriculture, then more serious things need to be taken up rather than just giving us the schemes and just presenting it on paper. This would be my personal opinion. All of you are entitled to your own opinion about this. The next question that we are trying to deal with, can investment in agriculture stimulate and sustain the economy, Goan economy? And I would say a big yes to it. Agriculture can really stimulate, and it has stimulated the Goan economy to some extent right now. And of course, the sustainable development, if we are talking about sustainable development, here is the thing that can sustain. So many years, agriculture had sustained us. Even when mining had not started, even when our tourism was not flourishing, agriculture has sustained the Goan economy and Goan lives. And that is why we are saying going back to our roots, going back to agriculture, where agriculture can sustain us. And good to know, I'm not an economist, but I just came across this while I was researching for my talk, that Goa is India's richest state because it has highest gross development product, GDP per capita. And they say it is 2.5 times that of the entire country of India. So that is something good for us to know that Goa is the richest state. But being the richest state, where are we? Yes, the fastest growth is seen in Goa, and we are proud about it. And today our economy, basically the bigger chunk is on tourism, or has been about tourism. Right now we are facing blockade in tourism because of the pandemic, but tourism is one of the mainstay of our Goan economy. The second mainstay has been mining, and mining also has come to sort of a halt. And so that means two backbones, tourism and mining. This pandemic tells us that yes, these can stop. Even if tourism is not there, we survive, we can go forward. Even if mining is not there, we can survive, we can go forward. We have gone forward. Of course, many of our brothers and sisters in the mining areas and those who are dependent on mining, they are really struggling, and we stand in solidarity with them. But still the pandemic tells us, even if there is no tourism, we can survive. Even though mining has stopped, we can survive. But one thing is agriculture. If agriculture stops, then we cannot survive, because without food we cannot live. And our food comes from agriculture. We eat what agriculture gives us. And I say agriculture, entire agriculture, not just paddy and plants, even animal husbandry, fishing, especially in Goa, we have fish cultures, fish farming. So all this is our food, and without food we cannot survive. And that is why agriculture has to be focused. It has to be revived. If agriculture is not revived, then we are going to go towards our disaster. And of course, this pandemic, by stopping tourism, also by halting mining. Of course, mining has not been halted by a pandemic, but the processes that are to be done somewhere at the halt. It tells us that it has given us a good opportunity to go back to our agriculture. And of course, trees, the industrial areas that we have coming up. But in all this, what we have done in all those years is, as tourism developed, as mining developed, agriculture has taken back seat. As industries develop, agriculture has taken back seats. Also, Goan economy is also dependent on what we get from the outside countries, where our brothers and sisters are working in other countries. So the economy is boosted by the currency, the foreign currency. Giving rise to that currency also, agriculture has been dwindling. So if we look at the Goan economy, agriculture, which has been the Atmanirbhar and mainstay of our Goan economy and Goan survival, has taken back seat. And that is why we actually need to revive agriculture. And if we do that, my dear friends, the farmers, the students, the other people who are attending this webinar today, let us understand that if we revive agriculture, our Goan economy will be steady. Otherwise, we are going to face a lot of problems. Well, the youth for farming, the possibilities and challenges. Here we have, I just present before you these two peaks, the recent ones. The CYFC is Chikali Youth Farmers Club, where the youth have come together. It is not only the youth, but the entire community in Chikali has come together. I'll just say a few things about this. At the same time, not only the community farming, we also have the chance for individual farming. Of course, this one is a 12-year-old boy who helped us till the entire field that we cultivated. And the good news is that our field already has the Konsa, and for our Konsa Fest, we had the opportunity to cut the Konsa from this very field, which we cultivated in the month of June. And yes, this is our star fellow, a 12-year-old Regina Mundi High School student who has learned how to handle the power tiller. As some of us might say, this is not safe. Yes, but he has been given good training by the farmer himself, Mr. Kaitan. He has given this training to this young kid who is very much interested. And as a kid, he used to be in this field, look at all these things and got inspired and taken up by machines. Instead of playing the machines on the video games and the mobile, the games that have been coming up so fast, and most of our children and our youth are today playing these games on the mobile, shoot somebody, kill somebody, and race on the mobile. So this is the kid who said, no, I don't want those races. I want to use the real machines. So those who have a real interest for real machines surely can come to the field. This is not the only machine. There are other machines which are available, as Ms. Gauri has put it before us. Today, the machines are there to take care, and that is why labor should not be a thing of concern for us. Coming back over here to this youth, why this youth came together? Of course, it was not to form any club, nor to say, okay, let us start community farming because of this pandemic. No, that was not the thing. The initial coming together was because of the need, and the need was created by pandemic. During the month of March, April, May, we have seen how the labor on which we depend for our farming and agricultural activities had to move to their own native places, and they actually left. And that is when the farmers who no more work in their own fields, the owners of the land who don't work, and those who have left Goa and we don't have that labor which was there in Esther years has been lost. And that is when the owner of this land happened to say to me, Father, what to do now? We are not getting labor. We are neither getting the guest labor that is from other states, nor from our state. But we cannot leave this field fallow. We have to cultivate it. And that is when I gave a call to the youth. Although there was pandemic in lockdown was in force, and of course there was no force for anybody. It was a volunteering, and these youth volunteered. There were many others who were interested. Not everybody could come to the field due to different reasons, but they came together. The coming together was because of this pandemic, and the need was created. And we managed to cultivate this entire field of 10,000 square meters, along with the youth as well as few of the neighbors, that is from our community itself. So that is when the coming together came. For that, this interest is very important. Both the youth as well as even this kid had a lot of interest that we want to come to the field. We want to do something. We want to help out. At the same time, we are bored at home, nothing to do, pandemic, lockdown. So we have an interest to go out. They also took an opportunity to go out. Over here, you see that there are no masks. Please don't consider this, that the work was done without any precautions. It was done with utmost precaution, but for the sake of photograph, we had taken off our masks so that people know who we are. So don't go by this visual thing that you get, because when this was posted on the social media, there were many people asking why the masks are not there, why the social distancing is not maintained and all that. But let me assure you, all these people are fit and fine. None of them, none of us, we have not contracted virus after this work. So interest is very important. When we talk about fields, ownership becomes another problem. Now, most of these youth, they are not the owners of this land, and they don't have land of their own. Even the CYFC, that is Chikali Youth Farmers Club that we have, we are not the owners. The members of this club are not the owners of any agricultural land. But there are owners, and we need the owners. So what we did over here before thinking of coming out with the Chikali Youth Farmers Club, we met the owners of the fallow lands. There are a lot of fallow lands in Chikali, especially around this field. If you go the other side, there is another field which is fallow. Surrounding it, there are fields which are fallow, because the owners either they don't have the interest, or they don't have time, or they don't have labor, or the profit thing, because there is no profit in the agriculture, which was misunderstood by many. So because of all those factors, the fields have been left fallow. Now what we did is we met the owners who are no more cultivating. And we explained to them that this is what we need to do. We need to go back to our roots. We have the youth who are interested. We have a community who is interested to revive the agriculture, but we don't have a land. The land belongs to you. And all the owners, a good thing to say, all the owners of these lands in Chikali were so happy and so willing to come on board and allow their fields to be cultivated by these youth. Of course, the ownership still remains with them, and it will remain with them. We are not taking any land from anybody, but we are coming down into the fields for cultivation. Ownership will remain with them. Work will be ours. That is what Chikali Youth Farmers Club is thinking of doing. If we are talking about possibilities, it is not only the labor and working in the field. We need academics, and we have on board today on the panel Miss Lisa, who has graduated from Don Bosco's College of Agriculture. And there are so many youth in Goa who have been graduating from this college. One of the pioneers is Sir Mingel, who bring up this agriculture college. So in Goa, we have an agriculture college which can give us the academic degree. And of course, when we have degree and we learn so many different things, especially the new ways of cultivating, the use of technology, all these things will surely help us to be smart farmers. As Ms. Gauri has rightly pointed out, we have to do smart farming. And for smart farming, we need smart academics, we need smart information. So as farmers, it is not only working in the land and agriculture. Even if you have no land, we need technical and mechanical help, mechanical support. So we have so many technical people among us. They have interest in mechanics. We have engineers who can and who should really come to the fields. And we need mechanics, we need technical things. So this type of things can be done by those who are having the interest for technical and mechanical fields. Chikali Youth Farmers Club is shortly collaborating with ITI Vasco. We have ITI in Vasco. So the ITI Vasco College will be coming up with agriculture related courses in which CYFC, that is Chikali Youth Farmers Club, will be one of the stakeholder, and soon that is coming up. So technical and mechanical help. And when we talk about farming, of course, if there are no benefits, then nobody wants to take it up. But there are a lot of benefits. This little kid, when he was interviewed, he said, he talked about just two simple benefits. One, he said, I will get food. We will be able to eat. Second thing, he said, those who don't have food, we will be able to give it to them. These are the only two things that this little kid said. Of course, we need food, others need food, and that we can get in agriculture. At the same time, as Ms. Gauri was talking about the surplus produce, we need marketing. And here in Chikali, we are working on that strategy as well. We are coming up with something called as Chikle Bazarache Fest, where all the farmers or all the producers, that is producers of food, they will come on board on this Chikleche Bazarache Fest every month, or we are yet to decide whether we are going to have it once a month, twice a month, thrice a month. As we go forward, we will surely know where to go and what should be the quantum of this Bazarache Fest. So if there is interest, ownership, academics, technical, and the benefit, then surely we can and we should. These are the possibilities, but the challenges are that we don't have ownership, as most of the schemes that the agriculture department has come out with are given to the owners. You need to own a land. So what about those who don't own a land, or they have sold their land when they were not in their proper sense? They have sold their land and now they are feeling, I should not have sold my field, but it is sold. Now what to do? So Chikali Youth Farmers Club, the members of this Chikali Youth Farmers Club are not all the owners of the land, or owners of the field, as I have already said. Even those who don't own a land are part of this. And we have been in touch with the Zonal Agricultural Office and Agriculture Department as well regarding the Krishi card, where the department gave us an option that those who are really interested in agriculture as their career and profession, even if they don't have a land, they can make a Krishi card, provided the owners of the lands which are already there, they give their NOC and say, okay, my land is so much, and on this I give a NOC to this particular person to have a Krishi card. Then the department would be willing to take up such cases and see what are the possibilities. So this is what we will be working. Although we don't have the owners of the land, but we want to create farmers through this Chikali Youth Farmers Club. We want to create farmers who will take care of farming so that it does not become just a one-time photograph. That is, because there is pandemic, we came to the field, and after the pandemic, we are back to where we were, and we are no more bothered, and we are ashamed or we are tired to come to the field. No, this should not happen. And that is the challenge that we are facing, that we want a sustainable agriculture. And for that, we need to strengthen these youth, make them stakeholders and show them that there are benefits. And in itself, agriculture becomes their employment, and they don't have to run to other countries or anywhere else to seek for jobs. So besides this, of course, the other challenges like the pests in the field and the monkeys and other animals attacking our fields. Not only these fields, but I'm also referring to the plants, fruit-bearing plants that we are trying to cultivate on our hills, all those things. So that is a big challenge. For this, we surely need government help. And as I've already referred to the schemes that are there, the challenge is if you don't have ownership, then you don't get schemes. Secondly, the challenge about this scheme is first, government says, okay, you spend first and then come to us for reimbursement, which actually is becoming a deterrent to some of the young people or youth who don't have any, on their own, they don't have the finance to invest. And that is why investing in the fields, of course, those who have, they can come forward. At the same time, if government can consider that those who are really interested and they don't have finance, the distribution of finance is worked out in a different way where they can start the work with that finance, then it would be a big help for revival of agriculture in a big way in our state. That is what I feel. Yes. I'll just make a few observations about this natural and healthy living. The kitchen garden way, as I have already referred to, we procured seeds from the department, agriculture department. We distributed it among people and they took it, and they now have seen that yes, in our backyard we can have a healthy kitchen garden and we can eat our own produce. We don't need to depend on the other states. So far we have been doing that. We have been importing vegetables, and we are, if something happens, that is roadblocks and pandemics, then there's danger of we starving. So if we have a kitchen garden in our own backyard, and if we take care to do it in a natural way, that is the today's farming we call as organic farming. That is the new way of farming. So organic farming can be practiced and taught. We can have, of course, more webinars for the Chikali Youth Farmers Club. We will be organizing these things to learn more and to get more people together. Just one last example from Chikali. We have one farmer. His name is Rui Costa Araújo. He was working in the school, but he has given up his job, and now he is a full-time farmer. And he focuses on organic farming. In this way, what he has done is he has got rid of this need where you have to depend on weeding. There is no weeding done in his field. This is an interesting that I found, interesting thing. No weeding is done. But he has the machinery, he has a tractor, he has a power tiller, he also has a weed cutter. So as the time comes, he goes with his weed cutter and cuts everything that is in the field, but does not burn it. He just keeps it over there. After a few days, he takes his tractor and along with the weeds that were cut and which have been now dead, he plows the field, mixing all the nutrients, the natural nutrients into the ground. If required, then whatever leaves that he gets from his home or in his other properties. He collects all those leaves, does not burn them in those places. That is the other properties where he has coconuts, where he has cashews and farm. Over there, he does not burn them. He gets all these leaves to this farm, to this field, and burns it over there, supplying the required natural ash for the fields. And that is the way he goes about. He also has poultry. He also has cows. So he uses this manure, शेण आणि गोरवांचे मूत जे आहा ते बीन सगळें collect करून he gets it to the field, and his field is naturally fertilized. There are no artificial or the modern fertilizers or urea is being used in this farm. So he keeps it natural. And I believe there are many farmers even attending this webinar who are doing this and going the organic way. So this way, my dear friends, I think I have this much to say about agriculture. Agriculture can be revived, should be revived. If our agriculture is revived, our economy is going nowhere. We are going to be at the top of the world. Thank you.
Thank you for the ballbacks. You have really summed up the whole issue of pandemic and what it has done agriculture, especially revival. They say a cynic is a person who finds problem with every opportunity, and an entrepreneur is one who finds an opportunity in every problem. Now with COVID, we have found an opportunity to grow vegetables, to grow more rice, to recultivate our fallow lands. In 1954 to 1961, there was an economic blockade whereby Pandit Nehru was trying to get rid of the Portuguese in Goa. And during that time, people grew coffee in Goa, not just enough rice to eat, but also things like coffee, which they were already used to. And so we have these opportunities. Very nice that you have mentioned Rui Costa Araújo, because normally it is said that in Mormugao Taluka, no one does agriculture. And Rui Costa Araújo is a state awardee for agriculture a few years back. And we hope that your request for a zonal agriculture office in Mormugao also will come through. One thing that Father Ballbach didn't mention is that he was responsible for getting Brother Ryan to the college. His classmate is here with us today, Lisa. And Ryan was the first person to top the college, the first person to get distinction with 96.4% marks, and the best student hands down. And this person, we hope, will help us to change the mindset with many of the people in Goa that a youth can do lots of things. So, going much further, I would request Lisa Piero, one of the star students from the Don Bosco College of Agriculture, to make her presentation.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Department of Economics for a warm welcome and a brief and sweet introduction. I'm not going to waste much time. We'll begin the presentation.
Your things are gone.
I'm going to talk about natural and healthy living the kitchen garden way. So this pandemic has knocked our heads really hard and made us realize two different things that are happening around the world. People have also discovered new hobbies like painting, cooking, baking, sketching, watching TV, reading newspapers, books, and kitchen gardening has caught an eye. Do you know why? Because the World Health Organization stated that the only way you can protect yourself from getting coronavirus is by staying at home, maintaining social distance, and eating healthy, immune-boosting food. Yes, that's why people started to grow their own food. But why did Goa struggle so much in the initial phase of lockdown? Why we were panicking and creating confusion to get groceries and food items? Do we grow our own food? No. We depend on bordering states like Karnataka and Maharashtra, who supplies us vegetables and fruits. That's why this made us realize that we need to have our own kitchen garden. We need to start agriculture, revive agriculture. Now we'll see what is the purpose of having a kitchen garden. So the main objective is to have a kitchen garden, is to get healthy, nutritious food for the family. In ancient times, people used to have their own kitchen garden, which served as sole source of providing fruits and vegetables for the family. In today's world, where we are focused on chomping fast food, frozen food, Chinese food, which contains high amount of unsaturated fat, toxins, and preservatives, and are harmful for our health. When you have your own kitchen garden, you are 100% sure that the food that you consume will be organic, healthy, nutritious, and also beneficial for your body. Now we'll see how to start a kitchen garden. First of all, a good site. A perfect site is a place where it receives a lot of sunshine, has good drainage and active soil. For those who do not have gardening space, they can grow vegetables and fruits in your balconies, patios, rooftops, and even on windowsill. You will see soon. Secondly, start out by growing simple seeds. You have to choose good quality seeds, disease-resistant seeds. You have to know when to plant seeds, how to plant seeds. That is very important. Third, every organism on this earth requires water to quench their thirst. See that your plants get good regular soak. Do not overwater or underwater. This will lead to invite a lot of pests and diseases, while underwatering will lead to scorching and wilting of the plant. Fourth, manuring. Like how we need food, plants need food as well. But how are you going to provide food for the plants? So instead of throwing away the kitchen waste, the vegetable peels and the fruit peels, you can utilize them to convert into manure or compost. Otherwise, you can just cut the peels and put in the soil. Banana peels contain high amount of potassium, which can be utilized into potassium fertilizers. These can be cut into pieces and then dip into the soil. After a few weeks, it will get disintegrate and will provide slow potassium for the plants. Even water which you use for cleaning fish and meat can be utilized as a fertilizer. These contain high amount of nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen. These are some quick growing vegetables you can grow as a beginner. Tomatoes can be grown. See how beautifully a girl has grown tomatoes in a polythene bag. Okras can be grown. Radishes can be grown in pots as well as on land. Then there's brinjal, pepper, green leafy vegetables, etc. When you get an experience, you can go for growing choka bits like melons, cucumbers, watermelons, pumpkins, gourds, and beans. If you do not have space, you can grow them in pots. Or if you don't want to spend money on pots and buying containers, you can reuse paint buckets, worn out tires, plastic bottles, cement sacks, cement bags, etc. Look how beautifully they have grown okra and brinjal in cut plastic bottles and cement bags. Also, they have painted, worn out tires and have grown tomatoes and beans. We are lucky that we live in tropics. We can grow a variety of fruits, lemons, mangoes, banana, pineapple, papaya can be grown. Fruits and vegetables. Fruits, that is very important if you are planning to grow in pots. Miss Donna Fernandez from Tutorin has grown a terrace garden. You can check on her video on YouTube. Then when you have kitchen garden, you are going to invite pests and diseases as well. And this happens when you are living in a balanced ecosystem. So when you get pests and diseases, do not panic. There is a solution for every problem. Like in the first picture, the bush pepper got infested by a fungal disease, Phytophthora root rot. And this is a soil-borne fungi. For this, the cure is trichoderma, which is available in the market, which is a good fungus available in the powdered form. This can be diluted in water and then drenched into the roots. Now, this good fungus will kill the bad fungus and thus keep the plant healthy and safe. For foliar diseases like bacteria, fungus, and viral, there are many amendments. There are many botanicals which are made up of plant extracts available. Biofungicides are available in the market. You can spray them on the leaves or on the fruits or wherever infested parts. So when there are also insects like bugs, beetles, caterpillars, and sucking insects. For those, you have to use neem oil, which is available in the market as well. People also use do-it-yourself homemade pesticides, which you can type on Google and do it yourself with homemade pesticides, and you get a list of pesticides made up of vinegar, cinnamon, turmeric, neem leaves, etc. You can use them to spray on your plants. Wood ash was used earlier by our grandparents to deter insect pests, slugs, and snails as well. So there are no gardening mistakes, only experiments. And this is for those who do not have space. So in the first picture, I have trailed my bottle gourd and reach gourd creeper on a vertical mesh wire net. Mostly people go for building matto or trellis. If you do not have space, you can adopt technique. The second picture painted his wall with a bare tree and have hung and plastic bottle containers, coconut shells. Third picture, plastic bottles are being used to grow herbs or leaves. Even you can use coconut shells, which is available in plenty in Goa, to grow leafy green vegetables and herbs like basil, assorted basil, mint, coriander, etc. The third picture is for those who do not have space. They complain about space. You can grow vegetables like peppers, chilies, brinjals, and even leafy greens in your windowsill or window grill brackets. Isn't it amazing? Now, what are the benefits of having a kitchen garden? First of all, you're contributing to the environment by growing plants. You're creating a fresh air. Excuse me, please turn off your microphones for an effective session. Thank you. You're creating a fresh air for your surrounding. You're providing oxygen. Secondly, you're living a healthy lifestyle by having a kitchen garden. Most of the food that we purchase from the market are either chemically sprayed with fertilizers and insecticides which contain toxins and are harmful for our health. So when you have your own kitchen garden food, you know it's organic and nutritious. Third, when you work in your kitchen garden, it's a fun activity and it reduces your stress and boosts your mental health. Fourth, there is a different sort of satisfaction and happiness when you have your own homegrown food. One hour of gardening is equal to about 35 minutes of jogging. Isn't that cool? Kitchen gardening is mostly advisable to work. It is mostly advisable to work in the kitchen garden either in the morning or in the evening, the same time when your fitness trainer or yoga master tells you to do exercise. Now, how kitchen gardening is related to career and economics? Did you know that kitchen garden is listed as top 5 career building hobby along with writing, cooking, art, and photography in 2020? But how is it going to build a career in economics? So if you have more space, you are going to grow food for yourself as well as for your society. The value of homegrown is much more than the ones which you purchase from the market which are grown chemically. And the price of organic food, homegrown food, is 3 times more. For an example, the papayas which you buy, the local Bounty papayas which you buy from the markets are costing rupees 120 per papaya, 150, which is homegrown and organic. Then the ones which are brought from Maharashtra or Canada, which are dark green in color, just rupees 470, which are grown chemically or using fertilizers. Now I'll tell you my experience in agriculture. First of all, hats off to the Chitalen youth group who have started cultivating paddy this year, and also to other youth who are involved in agriculture. It is really rare to find youth involved in agriculture. Do you know why? Because it is already set up in our mindsets that agriculture is low status profession and that is they advise their kids not to go into agriculture and go for white collar job. But this is not the thing. Even I experienced after completing my SQL science and said that I want to pursue career in agriculture, and people were like, "Are you crazy? By through science karun shetan kama hoitale?" This is completely wrong. We need food for our survival. We need food for our livelihood. And how are we going to get food if we do not get involved in agriculture? Now different technologies have come up from harvesting to sowing, from sowing to harvesting. There are different machineries which have come up. It's no more a hard work job. You can do. So these are some examples of my classmates who got into agriculture just after completing their degree. So the first two pictures is of Pawan and Akshay Sawant, who are into agriculture and organic growing of vegetables. They are no more doing hard work. You can see Pawan dealing with rotary power tiller. Earlier, people used to use plow and bullock carts. Now machineries have come up to grow food. The third picture, you will see Vandit Naik from Pilar, who is following beekeeping. He has harvested 13 liters of honey in the last season flow. You know honey, what is the price of honey and how expensive it is and how much we. The third picture is Raju D'Souza from Anjuna has started his own poultry farm and is selling local breeds. He's also into aquaponics. Now these youth are earning much more than an average youth earns in his lifetime. Besides growing, there's also something called as value addition of fruits and vegetables, where you can make pickles, jam, chutneys, marmalades, ice creams, and chips, and much more. Beekeeping is also gaining importance. Vermicomposting is very cool. You throw waste, the earthworms eat waste, and you get there. Oyster mushroom is also gaining importance as well. So there are many more opportunities in agriculture besides just growing food. It's just that we need to have some interest and dedication in growing our food. So thank you very much. My question to you is, will you start growing food from today? If you have more queries, you can follow my page on Facebook as Fruits of Hard Work, or you can ask me in the section of question and answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a very informative presentation for those who would like to do kitchen gardening, even starting from scratch. And the examples of your classmates, Elijah D'Souza in Anjuna, Akshay and Pawan in Kaparde, Satari, Vandit Naik doing most of his work at Sangod on the border of the My Mole forest, and doing a good job. Also, this Ganapati brought the Matoli fruits and vegetables and sold them by the truckload in Goa area. A lot of entrepreneurship coming up from your classmates, and we're looking forward to more. We have a question from Jose Pereira for Gauri Prabhudesai. Growing of pepper on coconut trees. What is the care precaution to be taken, and how is it for plucking coconuts? Any difficulties? Go ahead, Gauri.
So first question is how to participate in community farming. Now to participate in this, to avail this particular scheme, you need to have minimum 1 hectare of area, that is 10,000 square meters of area, which need to be brought under the farming or agriculture or under any crop. Then it is required that minimum 10 number of farmers get together and start community farming. So that's the requirement to start this community farming. That's the basic requirement. The second question is storing produce and how to take care of pests. Okay, while storing your commodity, the first basic thing is that the moisture percentage. Okay, now it all depends upon how you are drying your commodity. The moisture percentage should be reduced to less than 8%. Okay, and then you can store these particular commodities. And again, there are certain things like I'll tell you some ITKs which the local farmer uses. You must have heard of the tephra. Okay, that you can use. You can use neem leaves while storing the your commodities. Third question is, can some window made available towards the marketing agriculture products? Now here, of course, now if you are growing vegetables, we are having horticulture corporation into the picture, which is having a lot of procurement centers in the villages where you can sell your vegetables. Okay. Then the other things which have come up is that the farmers can form FPOs, farmer producer organization, for marketing your commodities. Now, farmer producer organization initially is supported by National Agriculture Rural Development Bank for the first 3 years. So, if somebody wants to start an FPO, they can contact the NABARD for further officials. Can you share some more details on pepper farming as intercrop in the coconut plantation? Would there be any impact to coconut trees in terms of plucking or otherwise? Yes, of course. There are two things over here. When I was talking about starting pepper plantation, I was focusing on the areca nut plantation, which are existing areca nut plantation where you can easily train your pepper seedlings. Whereas on the coconut, what happens is that if you are using mechanized climbing for climbing the trees, if your plucker is using mechanized climber, then it is a problem. Again, if you are trailing the pepper on coconut, then you will have to maintain height up to maybe 8 meters, and then you can use ladders for harvesting the coconuts. Is community farming covered under insurance? Initially, this community farming scheme, it includes all infrastructure development, okay, what is required. Then it also includes the supply of inputs, whatever is required for developing that particular piece of land. Second thing is the development of irrigation infrastructure or whatever infrastructure required, that is all included under community farming. Now we are having, right now we are not having insurance covered under the thing, which can be taken up by the agriculture department for further enhancing this particular scheme.
Okay, Gauri, there's a question for you from Mr. Anant Narayanan on if there's any support from the government for mushroom.
Yes, if you are going for a commercial mushroom farm, then under National Horticulture Board, we are having support for starting a mushroom unit. Now that will be like a project based. You will have to have a bankable project, and you need to submit it to the nearest zonal agriculture office. Yes, of course, there is support for mushroom farming.
Yeah, if anyone else has any other question, can post them or can ask them.
One question from Rupali Molkar. Can I get Can I get Krishi card if I own non-agricultural land and do the farming? Non-agricultural lands are not covered under the Krishi card scheme, because you need to have agricultural land to do, but then you can avail the other schemes like we are having vegetable development scheme for urban people, then schemes under kitchen gardening. Then we are having schemes under which we are supplying the vegetable seeds at 50% subsidized rate. Most of these schemes you can avail to develop that particular land.
There was one question about funding which also Father Bolmex raised about people who don't have money but are interested in cultivating. Just the other day we had...
Agriculture is one field where we are having credit facilities. Now, we are having a new scheme which is known as PM Kisan Samman Yojana, under which the farmers are getting 6,000 rupees in 3 installments for fulfilling the basic needs in procuring the input, basic inputs. So that can be available. Then we are having another scheme, bank-related scheme. You need to do your Kisan credit card with the bank, and you are having subsidy on the interest, wherein there is subvention of the central government. If you are availing the crop loan for the parcel of land, then you can avail the crop loan on 7% interest on where there is subvention of the central government, where central government is giving subsidy, 4% is reduced, left 3% which is borne by the state government. So you can avail start with 1.6 lakhs rupees. So we are having good subsidy on credit, facilities to credit.
Yeah, I have a question to the speakers. I'm Shailendra Furnessar speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I am I'm not a full-time farmer. I'm a public employee. I'm working in Verna. So I have some ancestral land. So if I have to take up farming, I have a Krishi card. But I'm not very active in farming. But like the zonal agricultural offices, they're not open on Saturdays. Okay, so how can you encourage like these part-time farmers to take up farming seriously? So for example, we have Krishi card. So why there is a need to visit the office? It can be the forms, the applications for subsidies and stuff like that can be made online, right? So any thoughts on that?
Yes, I will look into that. Now we started with that particular program to start everything on the online mode. But the places like where I am working, Sangam, we are not having that type of infrastructure to get everything done on online mode. But yes, over a period of time, we have reduced much of the paperwork by introduction of the Krishi card scheme, wherein whenever you are availing any scheme, you need not submit your documents. Okay, we have reduced the application forms. In fact, zonal agriculture offices also, they are conducting camps, village level camps, wherein they go to the villages, and it is called as administration at doorstep. They conduct such type of program wherein a farmer need not come to the visit to the offices, and there the forms are filled, and you can avail the facility, I mean the subsidy facility or whatever facility under those programs.
That's great. But the problem is, I am Ponda based, and my my land is in KPM, Bali. So every time I have to visit the ZOA office in KPM, and because I work 6 days a week. I work in an industry in Verna. So for every time. So it's not
Yeah, you can do one thing that so many farmers we do it and we accept it. The application form is downloaded. There is a common application form because since we have reduced the application form, so that we are having a common application form which can be downloaded from the website, and you can post it. Or it is no need that you have to personally visit the office to submit your claim. It is not required. Now, so many of my farmers who are staying in Panjim, who are staying in Margam, they are doing the same thing and it is being accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe once the network is improved for online schooling, then the office also will be better connected. Right now, connectivity in Kankon, Satari, Kepe is also, and that one is an issue. And I hope with the online classes that will get improved, and then I think we'll be able to do everything online.
Sure.
Any other question? There was one question from Bhagashri Kale, also for Gauri, and that is about simplifying the procedures for availing of various schemes, whether that is possible.
Over a period of time, actually, in fact, we have already simplified the procedures. Now, when a farmer is registering with us under Krishi Card scheme, we are taking all the land documents or whatever requisite document at once. So he is not producing the same document for availing various again and again. Okay. So we have given them a common number which is generated. So even if they give the Krishi Card number, that claim can be accepted because we are having the entire data of the farmer in our system.
Yeah, I think we have to thank Mr. Prajapati Tufani, the Director of Agriculture in 2014, for introducing the Krishi Card through the good offices of Mr. T.N. Reddy of CARE under RKVY. I remember when I was an officer, every time someone wanted to apply for a scheme, he had to come with all his documents, all the NOCs, everything each time. If he applied for 4 schemes, he had to bring all the documents in 4 sets. And that has really simplified, and the department is still simplifying the procedures for various schemes. It will take a little bit of time, but I think we are in the right direction and we are gaining speed. Any other question?
Can I speak, sir? This is Nestor here.
Yeah, sure, Nestor. Go ahead.
Okay, this is regarding the Krishi Card. See, basically, I feel it is a land document. It's not necessary that if you own agricultural land, you get a Krishi Card on your name. It doesn't necessarily make you a farmer. The reason why I'm asking is like this year in Diwar, a friend of mine who has taken up 8,000 square meters of cultivation has taken the lands on lease, but those lands are already under the Krishi Card of somebody else. And whatever work that she does in that, all the subsidies will go to that particular person. Is it possible for that person to have a Krishi Card on that same property again if she makes a 5-year lease or a 6-year lease?
Yes, sure. Krishi Card is actually
no, because the Krishi Card is already the Krishi Card of that particular owner is already there on that particular parcel of land.
Okay.
Nestor, I think. Yeah. Gauri, one moment. For the person to access the benefits of the Krishi Card, those who are owning the Krishi Card will have to make an NOC or a lease or some agreement with the person who's actually cultivating. They will have to surrender their Krishi Cards and it will go on to her Krishi Card as a leaseholder. So she'll have to make a new Krishi Card and those areas will be deducted from their Krishi Card, which is a smart card. So unless they allow the deduction of that area from their cards, she cannot get it on her card.
No, because see that actually not many people will want to remove their names from the Krishi Card as it's already there.
No, their Krishi card will remain, their name will remain, but the amount of property which they're giving out for lease, maybe for 5 years.
Okay,
for
okay,
5 years,
that could be removed from, that could be removed. That could be
after 5 years, it will revert back to them.
Yes. The area can be deducted
fine.
and yes.
So that person can apply for a Krishi card if the original owner gives her an NOC.
Right.
Yes. Sure.
Okay, right. Thank you.
So actually, we are at Chikali Youth Club, as I have already referred to. I had a word with the General Agricultural Officer from Margaon, and this particular thing was discussed about the land and Krishi card for non-land owners. So here, what he was said was exactly this, that the owner has to give a NOC for the, suppose if he has a 10,000 square meter land, he uses the, suppose 5,000 for himself for the Krishi card, he should give a NOC for the remaining 5,000 to be used by somebody else, and the NOC has to be given by the owner. In that case, the Krishi card can be given to the non-landowner.
Yes, that is the correct procedure for to access the Krishi card. We have had some really wonderful presentations, and since Gauri represents the Directorate of Agriculture and works in that, most of the questions were for her because that's where you finally access the benefit. It's also a recognition that the Directorate of Agriculture is a major player in the revival. That should not be lost in this. A major player in this revival is that, and we have a very good director in Neves Afonso and a very good team of officers to support him. And revival definitely is showing, not just in the increase in vegetable seed sale or paddy seed sale, but actually you can see the fields are becoming green. COVID-19 is something that we didn't expect. It is something that has done a lot of harm in terms of health of the people, but in terms of biodiversity, in terms of agriculture, it has had major benefits on which we need to build up. I have to thank the organizers, the Department of Economics, and especially Rovina Fernandez there, and the college, with Dr. Aldina Braganza Gomes as the principal, for creating this webinar and creating this opportunity for all of us to interact. We look forward to such interactions. Of course, on the 2nd, the ICR Coastal Agriculture Research Institute is going to have a webinar on coconut and value addition, which you could register for. But this has set the ball rolling. There is still another one for those who are interested in red palm weevil control that is organized by the Don Bosco College of Agriculture along with Dr. Jose Roman Falero, that is on the 8th at 2 o'clock Indian time, for which you can attend. And those who would like to continue learning, there are Facebook pages, there are WhatsApp groups which deal with agriculture, and it would be nice if you can join up. And we in the Botanical Society of Goa have also a Facebook page on which you can link up and ask questions. I would like to thank the panelists on my own behalf, Gauri Prabhudesai, Reverend Dr. Balmax Pereira, and Lisa, and hand it back to Dr. Rovina for the concluding remarks and the vote of thanks.
So just before signing off, one small note, Madam Gauri, I think we can tell this to the young farmers who are interested, that our Honorable CM has come out with this scheme for 50 unemployed youth who are interested in farming. If we can give some information to the participants about this, I think that would be a nice thing.
Yes, the Honorable CM has given, in fact, every officer who is working on the ground level a target of 50 farmers per zone, and focus on these particular youth farmers and new farmers, so that their income and to give them such a package that their income is at least 3 lakhs per annum. Okay, so that is a targeted effort. Every officer has been given the target by the Honorable PM.
I think that is up for review on the 22nd. It's up for review on the 22nd of September, which the CM has set the date. And for farmers, especially, he said the focus will be on the youth farmers. And we are looking forward to many youth coming to this and utilizing it, contacting the zonal agriculture officer, and not necessarily waiting for the zonal agriculture officer to come to your house and contact you. You can contact him, you can email. There is e-Krishi Sampark. You can use WhatsApp, you can use email, you can go onto the website, you can go online and link up. And thank you for the Walmex for raising up this issue and for enlightening on that. Back to you, Robina. Dr.
Participants kindly note, the link of feedback form is shared in the chat box. Kindly fill the feedback form to receive the e-certificate. The most beautiful way of winding up is expressing gratitude, and it is my pleasure to do the honors. On behalf of the Department of Economics, I express heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Miguel Braganza for his valuable guidance in organizing this webinar and for conducting the session so wonderfully well. A deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to the panelists, Ms. Gauri Prabhudesai, Reverend Dr. Walmex Pereda, and Ms. Lisa Pinero, not only for the valuable insights you provided, but also for the dedicated and inspiring work you all do. Many thanks to our principal, Dr. Alvina Braganza Gomes, for her support. Our technical staff, Meriston and Harish, ensured the smooth conduct of the webinar. A sincere thanks to them. It was the enthusiastic participation of all the participants of all ages across Goa that has given power to this webinar, and hope to us that it may have inspired many of you, especially the young, to look at the possibilities of agriculture in Goa and to protect and value our environmental resources. May the soils of Goa be tilled. May our land bear the fragrance of flower and fruit. And may we all contribute our bit in the revival of agriculture in Goa. Thank you all.